Hi everyone, in today's video we are going to take a look at another automation obstacle. It's a hard one, 87912. So in this particular problem we have to click on this button called load books, and this is going to load a certain XML and we have to fetch a certain value. So if I go here and I try to copy this and paste it in a notepad, okay, what we have to do is we have to find the ISBN number of this particular book, testing computer software. So let me maximize this, and here if I take a look at this XML, you will see this testing computer software, and here is the ISBN. We have to fetch this value and then we have to place it in this particular section, is what our problem statement is. Pause it for a moment, think about the approach, how you will solve this problem, and then take a look at the remaining part of the video. Now let's get started with scanning. So I'll go to my modules. This is going to be an interesting one because we have to navigate by fetching the XML, saving it to a file, and then fetching the value out of an XML. So it is going to be an interesting one. Okay, so we have successfully initiated our scan, and I'll just grab the values. So this and this, these three things we need, and let me move this on this side and maximize this. Now we are going to take a look at the properties. Anyways, all of our items are unique, but we'll see. So load books, ID, tag, we are good. In terms of books, it is taking ID and tag, we are good. And then this particular place, ID and tag, we are good. One point we have to understand that in this particular section is basically our content of XML is coming. So if I'll do this and if I'll click on highlight selection, you see this is coming here. Okay, so it should be capturing the value or the details about the XML file. So if you take a closer look at the second module attribute, and here you see in the value section, or it could appear in any other section as well, but in our case it is coming in the value section. So if I click on this, you see the entire content is getting captured in the value section. Okay, now that is enough. We'll save this module and we'll get started with our script. Okay, so I have saved the module and I will move this module to the test cases section and we will get started. Okay, now our first step is to click on load books. Okay, so I will just make a copy of this, so if we need to use it again, we can use it again and again. So first thing is we are going to click on load books. Okay, pretty straightforward and simple. I'll just pass a click statement here. Okay, now second thing is I have to grab the contents of the XML which is being generated. Okay, so what I can do is for easier purpose I'll do a buffer here. Okay, and I'll give some value. So it is taking by default books, we are good. Okay, just to be more specific, since the module attribute which is capturing the XML was value, so I will type value here. Okay, now we have successfully clicked on this and captured this value. Okay, let's quickly run this and see if it works, and then we'll move to the next step on how to make it a XML file, how to fetch the value inside that, and all those parameters. We are going to work on it after this particular step passes. So it is clicked on load books and our execution is successful. Let's take a look at this and go to this buffer name and see if it has captured the value or not. So if I make it big, you see it has captured the value successfully. We are trying to look for testing software book, so here it is, testing computer software. Okay, now first thing is we have to create a file. Okay, and for creating a file we have an inbuilt module in case of TOSCA. So if you go to modules, standard modules, and you go to TOSCA Automation tools, here you will find something called TOSCA read and create file. Okay, so we are going to use that and I'm going to move that to the test cases section. Okay, Now here I can write that creating the file. Okay, now here you see there are several parameters which we need to pass. Okay, first thing is the directory. Where do we want to place the file? Okay, so I can click on this and I can go to my desktop, or I have already created a folder called XML on my desktop, so I will just select that. Okay, so it will give that particular path. Okay, now we need to give certain name to the file, so maybe we can write it as obstacle dot XML, because the extension is going to be XML, so I'm typing it out here. Okay, now the main important part, what is the value we are going to pass in the file? Okay, so we have captured that value here, so I'm going to pass this as a buffer here. So curly brackets b, square brackets, books, close, and close this. Okay, so now this is going to create a file at my desired location. So let me show you the location. This is the location in which no file exists. Okay, now if I run this, last time we ran this, so it has, the buffer already has a value, so we do not have any dependency on that. If I'll just run this, it should ideally create our file. So it is successful and our file is created. Now let's take a look at if it has captured the contents correctly or not. So maybe I'll right click and open with notepad. Okay, and if I scan this, if I expand this, we see that our data is coming successfully here. Okay, so our second step of creating the file is done. Okay, now the third part is we have to fetch the value in that particular XML file. Okay, now for that we have to scan that particular file. Okay, now before moving ahead, I will just cover one more concept here. So see, if you are trying to run the script again and again, and if you already have a file existing at this particular location, it will give an error that a file already exists. Okay, now in order to overcome that, you have to use this attribute called override. Okay, because every time it is going to use the same name, right? So what I'll do is I'll just click on this and I'll pass a value true here, so that we do not run into that particular issue. Okay, now we'll move ahead with the next part, in which we have to scan the file and capture the contents. So in that case, TOSCA provides us a scanning feature of file scan. So if you right click on the module, you click on scan, you click on more, you will find this section called file scan. Okay, let me just zoom this so you can see. So this is basically the way to go there. Okay, now I will again do that and scan more and file scan. Okay, now all I need to do is I need to just capture that particular file. So this is our file. I'll just click on open. Okay, now the moment we do that, it automatically takes a scans through the file and it creates the structure. So here you see, if I expand this, it is going to give me the book, the author, title, whatever way it that particular XML file has been structured. Okay, it is giving the value range as well. If we want, we can delete these or we can keep it. Even the both the things are fine. Okay, so I'll just drag and drop this thing into my test cases section. Okay, now we have to fetch a certain value. Okay, so I'll write fetch value from XML, or fetch desired value from XML. Okay, now what our problem statement was, that I have to search through the XML and find the ISBN of the book title testing computer software. Okay, so I'll copy this. Okay, and I'll go here and it is saying title, so I'll go into the title section and I'll put this value. Okay, and since there are a lot of records, I will put a constraint here. Okay, and if you will notice, in this particular file there is only one record which is created with this particular book called testing computer software. So if we are putting one constraint, we are good, we are going to get only one record. Okay, now our search criteria is done. Now we have to fetch the value of ISBN. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll use a buffer statement here to buffer that value. Okay, and we will call it as ISBN only. Okay, now if I run this, okay, you will see it is going to basically fail. Okay, now there are two reasons for that. uh, Either a resource or a transition have to be specified. Okay, but before that I have to pass one more step. Okay, so whenever we work with a file, and we have to execute that, we have to first form a connection or open that file. Okay, now since this is a XML file, we have inbuilt module for that. So if you go to modules, and if you go to standard modules, and you go to tbox x engines and go to XML, okay, here you will find something called open slash create XML file. Okay, so what this would do is, this is basically going to open your file. Okay, so let me just drop it in the test case, and we have to pass this before this particular section, because in the next section we are going to read that, right? So if I open this, you will see two things: resource and file path. Now resource is any name what you want to give. Okay, it's just that that particular name is going to be used to refer to that particular file. Okay, so if I want, I can write it as file here. Okay, or any name of your choosing. Okay, now file path is basically I'm giving the path where exactly my file is located. So my file is located here. I'll just click on open here, and it is going to give that path. Now what happens after using this particular step is, I can use now file to refer to this particular file, and it has been opened, so I can read that file. So this is the resource which I need to pass here as well. So I'll just pass it as file. Okay, now we'll just run these two steps to see if it is able to fetch the ISBN what we desire or not. Okay, so I'll run it in the scratchbook, and we'll first see if it is capturing the ISBN or not. So our execution is successful. Now we'll see in this, and we'll go to the books, and we'll see ISBN has been set to value 1426909. Okay, now let's validate it manually if it is actually capturing the correct value or not. Okay, so I'll open with notepad here, and we'll go to testing computer software here, 1426909. So it is capturing the value successfully. Okay, now the next task is pretty straightforward. We have to put this value in the next file. Okay, so I'll just make a copy of this. Okay, and I'll paste it, and I'll rename this to input the value. Okay, and here this is the place where we have to input the value. So how we have used the buffer, right? So I'll pass a buffer here, and the buffer name was ISBN, and I'll close this and I'll close this. Okay, now it is going to pass my value here. Okay, however, if you run this, it is not giving uh, the pop-up which says that our automation problem is solved. Okay, so if I'll run this, so since it has captured the ISBN, I am just seeing that it is putting that value correctly. However, we are not getting that pop-up. Okay, now whenever we run into these type of conditions, we can use either send keys, or we can change the fire event parameter. Okay, now I've tried this with send keys, it was not working. But if we try the another method, so if I click on this particular module attribute, I right click and jump to the module attribute, you will see one steering parameter in the properties. Okay, which is called as fire event. So instead of change, what I'll do is I will change this, and I'll type here input. Okay, and I'll click on save, and I'll go back to my test case, and we will just run this. So I'll just remove this. Okay, now I'll run this again just to see if it is working fine or not, and then we'll run the entire test case and see if we are running into any timing issues or things like that, and we'll take care of those issues as well. Okay, so I'm just running that step, and since ISBN already contains the buffer value, we should be good. Okay, so it does not seem to work fine. uh, let me just see. Right click, jump to the module attribute, and we have changed this to input. This should work. Let's run this. This is a small problem. We'll see if it does not work. So I'll just click on try again here, and we'll try to run the entire test case, and then we'll fix if that issue is still happening. So this we have just used to uh, refer this particular step again and again. So I'm going to remove this. Okay, now first thing, we are clicking on load book, so we are good. Then we are creating a file and we are overwriting it as well. Then we are opening the file, and then we are reading the content. We are putting a constraint, we are buffering, and then we are entering the value. Okay, now I'll just click on save here, and I'll run this. So why I did that save is maybe if I've changed the fire input fire event parameter, it might not have taken effect. So just to make sure that it should work fine, I've done that. Now let's see if this works fine. So it is clicking on load books, and our automation problem is solved. So only that saving issue was there. Okay, if we want, we can run it again just to make sure it is working fine. Okay, so what key takeaway here is, basically we can do a file scan as well in case of TOSCA, and we can use its inherent feature of scanning a file, as well as we can save the files in a certain location, and we can use the fire input parameter, fire event parameter, to kick off our pop-ups or things like that on based on how the application is designed. I have a lot of videos on this obstacle series, so do stay tuned, and I have a lot of videos on TOSCA as well as on other automation tools or performance testing tools as well. So do like, share and subscribe, and have a great day. Thank you. Bye bye.